Throughout franchise history, Godzilla has faced dozens of foes, all with different capabilities, powers, and attitudes. But no matter what skills these opponents brought to the battle, no matter how many hits they landed on Godzilla, it's always only a matter of time till the big G-Man does what he does best. Sometimes it feels like the only thing that can defeat Godzilla is himself. And we almost got to see this battle back during the thunderous era of the Heisei Godzilla films. In this video, like our recent dives down memory lane, we will explore an unmade Godzilla movie that would have had the very first Godzilla ever from the original movie brought back from the dead. And this troubled spirit would have taken on Heisei Godzilla in an intense and wild battle that would have been like no other Godzilla had ever at that point. This is the story of Godzilla versus Ghost Godzilla. Real quick, if you like these trips down memory lane and want more videos on classic Godzilla, give this video a big ol' Kong-sized like. And let me know down in the comments that you want more Toho content. Back in the mid-1990s, the Heisei era was slowly coming to an end, and Toho needed to go out with a bang.
Send me out with a bang.
So Shogo Tomiyama, a producer for Toho at the time, aimed to create something that would pay homage to the original creature created way back in 1954. This is when the concept of Ghost Godzilla, which I'll refer to as Ghostzilla because it sounds better, was born. To pitch this idea, he created a short synopsis for the general idea for the story, but chose to focus more on describing this Ghostzilla and its curious set of abilities. Ghostzilla would have been derived from the restless spirit from the original Goji's death, awakened 40 years after the oxygen destroyer had taken its flesh. The lore behind the original Godzilla's death would have been adjusted to fit this new haunting idea. Instead of ripping all the oxygen out in the nearby areas, like what happened in the actual movie, leaving only a skeleton of Godzilla to remain on the ocean floor, the detonation would have somehow set off a sort of time-traveling explosion that would have caused an instantaneous 10,000-year time jump in just that vicinity. It's a little out there, I know, stick with me. This huge time jump would have instantly decayed all of Godzilla's remains, even the bones, leaving behind nothing. Or so it appeared that way. Turns out, this story would have had the original Godzilla's life energy being left behind, as an invisible spirit of sorts, resting on the bottom of the ocean. Over the next 4 decades, this bioenergy would have slowly gathered together to form an unseen mass of Godzilla's consciousness. A conscious that craved to once again have a physical form in order to complete its mission that it started 40 years prior, to destroy Japan. The anger, fear, and hatred Godzilla had felt before succumbing to the oxygen destroyer was all that remained, creating a demon, a truly evil soul. After growing powerful enough to leave the ocean floor, the invisible spirit sought out a body that it could take over and continue its reign of terror. The first soul it chose to go after was none other than Godzilla Jr., referred to in this story's draft as Little Godzilla for some reason. The juvenile Goji was unable to stop the restless spirit from taking control of his body. And just like that, Ghostzilla had finally found a way to come back into the living world. Now, the influx of sheer power into Little Godzilla's body caused him to forcibly grow well beyond his body's natural limits. Allegedly, his skin would have split open like extreme stretch marks. And in a short amount of time, the spirit had mutated Godzilla Jr. to look more like the original Godzilla in appearance. Now with a new body and regained power, Ghostzilla was officially alive and kicking. The only thing it desired now was a stronger host. A host that would allow it to become a god. This was the original proposal that was left on the table for the minds at Toho to ponder upon. Then Kazuki Omori would create a draft of his own, making a few changes to deviate from the idea proposed by Tamiyama. In this draft, referred to as Godzilla vs. Godzilla, parentheses story plan A, cause you know, I guess Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla just sounded too clear and precise for a title apparently. Sorry Kazuki. And the title was not the only change to be made. Instead of using the absurd 10,000 year time jump idea, this draft kept the original skeletal remains idea that was seen at the end of Gojira, and the restless spirit only came into existence after its last remaining bone was disturbed. Now this time, Godzilla wouldn't be as vengeful, and would only cause terror in an attempt to reclaim its lost bone and last connection to Earth. Soon after, light from the Aurora Borealis would appear over the land, and Godzilla would somehow mix its life energy with this light and transform into Aurora Godzilla. You know, for a bunch of business dudes, these Toho guys are like out there. Using this new form, Aurora Ghost Godzilla would still proceed to take over Godzilla Jr.'s body and continue its rampage across Japan. Eventually, the real Gman would have faced off against Godzilla, and as you would expect, our guy would be victorious. In the midst of the battle's climax, the surviving bone would have been destroyed, and the dust coming from the shattered bone would have mixed with the life energy that was now yet again without a host, and the combination of the physical bone remnants and the vengeful spirit would create another monster, Crystal Godzilla. I just want what they're having. We don't know what would have come after Crystal Godzilla had formed, and we likely never will. Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla would go on to have multiple other drafts created by various creative minds, one of which would have even had Godzilla taking on our boy Anguirus and transforming him into a hybrid monster known as Godzirus. Sounds pretty badass, actually. But sadly, none of these ideas stuck, and this wild concept for a Godzilla film was ultimately thrown in the trash. Allegedly, this all came down to the Ghost Godzilla concept being too much like the previous two movies in the Godzilla Heisei era, fighting Mecha Godzilla and Space Godzilla. A third movie in a row with Godzilla fighting a variant of himself would have been just too much of more of the same. And this idea was scrapped in favor of Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which most of us can agree that was a good idea. But unlike some of our previous videos where we've gone over these unmade Godzilla movies, I kind of feel like this one actually had a chance of, succeeding in the box office and amongst the fans. I think it was simply a case of wrong place at the wrong time, more or less. As I do think the idea could have gone over well with most fans, tell me what you think. But the idea did live on in a way, as it likely had some sort of inspiration in creating another fan-favorite Godzilla movie, GMK, where that Godzilla was a demon hell-bent on causing destruction to Japan. And perhaps one day, this vengeful Godzilla spirit may yet again haunt our king of the monsters. So what do you think about this unmade Godzilla movie? Make sure and let me know if you would have enjoyed this story, or if you're happy it never came to be. Hey, big thanks to the Toho Kingdom, by the way. Make sure to stomp the subscribe button and hit the bell to stay notified on when we upload more Godzilla content of all kinds. We're not just gonna focus on the new empire, everyone, don't worry. As always, this has been Jacob, and I will see you in the next one.